Well, welcome everyone. It's 12 noon in the East. It's Carm Capriato on the Town Hall Academy from the Remarkable Results Radio podcast. You know, the only weekly forum for aftermarket professionals that bring a fresh, innovative idea and discussion to grow individuals and companies. Wow, we got an impactful one here today, I'll tell you. And we're live on Facebook site. Today, getting value from recorded service calls. I just can't wait to talk about it. I want to thank Jasper so much for their support. In addition to the strict quality remanufacturing steps they take at Jasper, they can actually improve a drivetrain's components' original design so that it runs longer and better than when it was new. I was at the plant, got a tour, and they showed me exactly how they were improving on so many of the OE pieces that they reman. Check out their featured engine and transmission pages at jasperengines.com. I so warmly would love to welcome Rena Rennebaum from the ACT Group. Hi, Rena.
Hi, everyone.
And Lauren Giver. I'm actually doing ladies first, Keith, if you did not notice. Lauren Giver, service advisor at Los Gatos Auto Service in Campbell, California. Hello, Lauren.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. I met you last week at ATE.
Yes, we did.
Great to meet you. And then Keith Williamson from Williamson Service in, God, why didn't I write that down?
Bondurant, Iowa.
Yeah, in Iowa. I'm sorry, so sorry. You know, and I knew that because you were with me just a few weeks ago on the big panel at Vision on Are You Prepared for the Future? Boy, Keith, what an incredible town hall that was. Thank you so much for participating in that.
Well, thank you for having me.
It was great. And anyone, please, we took that, we recorded it, and we put it out, and it has gotten so many listens. And people have come, actually sent me emails and said that was one of the most interesting episodes they've ever heard. And basically, we had some pretty heavy talent on that stage. So please check that out. It was the town hall from Vision. Anyway, so here we are going to talk about how to get value from recorded service calls. Big topic today. So many people are doing it, and a lot aren't for reasons that maybe we can talk about and overcome. Rena, I want to go to you first. We don't like hearing ourselves in a recording. Mm-hmm. And is that one of the toughest parts of, sit down and listen to this call? I don't want to hear myself. How do you overcome that?
Some people really struggle with that. I know I personally, in the beginning of listening to myself and watching myself back on recordings, I had a really hard time getting used to it. And, I think that people can overcome it as soon as they hear themselves progress, and as soon as they find the value, see the benefits, hear the benefits, it is easy to overcome.
It is. It's easy, even though I keep putting my hand up and said, I don't want to be part of that at all. So, Lauren, I have to go to you next because you're the service advisor. You're the person who's actually listening to yourself and gaining value from those calls. So,
right.
How was that first time that you had a chance to listen to yourself?
It was most definitely awkward, but, I had to set that aside and really take away from it what I could, because when I started listening to the recorded calls, I was brand new to writing service. And so I just had to overcome it and better myself in order to do a better job.
You're brand new to service. I love that. Where'd you come from? What industry?
Well, I was doing a lot of administrative work, HR, bookkeeping, payroll. I had been with a restaurant for 10 years, and I ended up with a repair shop, and they had actually been my repair shop for 2 years, and I absolutely loved them, and they brought me on as their office manager. So,
we should do an episode on how the people from outside the industry have come in and worked our service counters and look at what the orientation and the integration was like and where you are today. And when I think of the recorded phone calls, I think as an incredible step in the process, especially someone coming from the outside. And Rena, you're a coach. And I do believe that you would be Lauren's coach.
I am.
See? Oh, that's cool. So Well, interesting
It
how that
is
all worked
cool.
out, huh?
Yeah, Lauren was really fortunate because the shop that she started working at, they immediately got her into coaching. Actually, we started coaching before she even started on the job. And so we worked together for a while before she started answering phones. And she got to listen to other people's calls so that she could hear how other people do it. And she could hear other people at her shop so that she could hear exactly how they answer questions. And so Lauren was definitely given a really big gift by having recorded calls from the very beginning, actually even before the beginning, like, you know, it was a great experience for her.
It is. I love the idea that Lauren had calls to listen to. That had to, really jumpstart her. But Keith, let me go to you now and ask this question about, you want to have a proper way to answer phones in the business.
Correct.
And
Yes.
this is a great way for you to be sure that that phone image is right. So it really helps you coach your people on the proper technique.
It does, yes. I believe if you don't have a standard script that you're going to use, they're going to make up whatever they want. So you need to make sure that they know what the script is, they have it in front of them, and they follow it.
How's that? We come into work with a little baggage some mornings, and that phone rings, and you've got to get that smile going in your voice. Do all three of you see the value of? Well, first of all, the calls are being recorded, and so I may get called on the table for this thing. So, hi, Carm speaking. Can I help you? I mean, does that accountability piece that hovers over there, is that a big factor, Keith?
It is. Yes, it is. And if they know that you're paying attention to it, it means a lot to you. It means a lot to the customer. Then it means a lot to them. If they don't know that you're watching it, you're looking over it, then it's not going to mean a whole lot.
Lauren, tell me this is all a positive thing.
Holistically, because I know that I know that the calls are being recorded as they're coming in, but that thought has never fazed me, because at the end of the day, it's a tool that's going to help me do my job better. And I always strive to do my best. So I am not afraid of knowing that those calls are recorded.
There are definitely times when I am coaching somebody that we're listening to one of their recorded calls, that I know that it's going to be a bad call that they have to listen to. And sometimes you have to hear yourself when you're not the best version of you. But then I'm excited and proud to share with them calls that they have really just done an amazing job, and they converted somebody that you wouldn't expect them to convert and that they didn't expect to convert. And now they get to celebrate that they were able to convert a difficult customer.
I can be better, to me, is the piece that comes out of here. Which one, Keith? It may have been you that in your talking points, and I've got only 50 of them here in front of me, where there was a realization that yes, techs need training. But who was it that said it hit him in the face? An owner hit him in the face that we realized that service advisors need training.
Yeah, service advisors definitely need training just as much, or if not more, than the techs do. I mean, that's the face of your business.
So it's a big industry today, and service advisors are being trained all over the country in technique and in relationship building, communication skills. Is this Rena? Is this the overarching umbrella that is that accountability piece to all that training?
It's my biggest and best tool. I've been really fortunate that since I've been a coach, calls have been recorded. And when I work with shops that didn't have call recording, which every shop I work with now does, but the ones that didn't, we would secret shop them because we needed to hear them. It is the best tool that I have to hold you accountable. It's also, if I listen to your calls, this week, and I go over a lesson with you, and then I listen to your calls and you've now made the improvements, I know that that technique works for you, that I know that my training technique works for you. So it helps me tailor my coaching technique to that person based off of the fact if they got it or not the next week that I listen to their calls.
I love that. I love that. It helps you as a coach know how well you're doing to see if there's an improvement there. Lauren, you actually learn how to speak at people's different pacing when you hear yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
And this, it's so true. You almost have to learn to talk at, with what's coming at you.
You really do. Because, for example, I have a customer, I know when he calls, he just wants, just that surface level information. Just run through the list, what's wrong with my car. He has a basic level of understanding of, what these components are. So when I know when I speak with him, I just need to tell him, okay, we need new brakes, we need new pads and rotors, we're going to need an air filter for you. At some point, we're going to have to look at this oil leak. And with him, it's just to the point. But whereas other customers, you really have to hold their hand through what's going on with the vehicle and get into a little bit more detail because they want to know.
Did you ever sit on a recorded call? You're listening to it and you're making notes. I coulda, woulda, shoulda done that better. And I should have slowed down here. And I should have been more succinct there. And I should have been more vague there because they didn't really want to know it. I was boring them to death. And you're learning from all of that.
Yes.
Your biggest learning curve in the last 2-3 months. Big takeaway that you said, I can do this better.
Well, for me, it really boils down to just selling the service itself. Because I know initially one of my biggest hangups was that I didn't know the technical side. I have zero technical background. And so I was constantly having to go to the technicians and get that understanding. And I know one of my coworkers, I would drive him absolutely nuts because I would ask the same question 10 different times because I wanted to be prepared. So when I made that phone call to the customer, if he had, if he was a level 1, I could talk to him at a level 1. But if he's no level 4 or 5, I'd have that same information.
Got it. Keith, do you ever save good calls so that you could go back into a history list and say, hey, come on in here. Let's remind ourselves what a good call sounds like? Most
definitely. I've saved good calls and I show them to other advisors when I hire. We just hired a new assistant. So we share that call with them as well. And that way they can see this is a good call. This is your call. You can be a judge for yourself. How does it sound?
Keith, have you ever lost anyone because you recorded calls?
I have not, no.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Everybody that I've had that I've recorded has been open to the concept and really wanted to learn. So
they sign a document to this that they're going to have their calls recorded?
Yeah, it's included in there when I hire them on. Yeah, it's included in all that.
Rena, you said, wow, that's good. You have other experience?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, I have definitely had to suggest that somebody find a different place of employment based off of their recorded calls. And I want to go back to the saving of recorded calls. I probably have a library of at least 1,000 saved calls. And it's good calls, bad calls. I have examples. I have them all labeled. And so if you need to hear like how a really good greeting is or a bad greeting, anything like you were talking about, Keith, like having a script, I call them a guide. But if I'm going to teach somebody a call guide, one of the best tools that I have is to show them why it works. And so I have tons of example calls where I can say, if you listen to this call, you can hear why the call guide works and why it doesn't work here and why it doesn't work to have a call guide. This is an example call of that. Then I have recorded sales calls of, this is how if you want to, make a sale, I have one where this service advisor does the best job selling fluid services that I have ever heard. I saved that and I have played that for every advisor that has ever worked with me because I'm like, wow, if you can take away from this, if you can buy what this person was selling and now sell it to one of your customers, you're going to be, just such a better salesperson based off of the fact that you're learning from other people.
And that's going to allow you to better serve the customer based on that.
Absolutely. That's how I learned as a service advisor, because when I first, just like Lauren, I started writing service when I was in my early 20s, and I did not know anything technical. I didn't know anything about the business. I just knew people. So I sat and listened to all of my coworkers, and I took words and phrases from them. And that's what I do for my service advisors as well, is let's borrow some words and phrases that we heard from other advisors. Take them, make them your own, or just take them directly. But we get so many great key phrases from other advisors and techniques for selling.
Do you have a list up on the wall, Keith, of good phrases?
Yeah, we do. We have several, not on the wall necessarily, but a sheet of paper that has some good phrases in it. You know, you pick them up from all the different trainers.
And did they come from what you want to have established in your business, or just through, obviously from trainers and coaches, but have you picked up any new ones from listening to the calls and says, wow, this was so great, we got to add that to our good phrase list?
We've seen some different variations for sure. And some things that I like to let them be a little open with how they interact with the customer, because each customer is going to be a little bit different, but we have to still hit these same points. So yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I the word robotic just came to my mind. And I don't think this whole thing is to be robotic, is it, Lauren? It's really to be you, but to understand that on the fly, you still have to accomplish the goal.
Exactly. I mean, a big part of it is really developing your own style, finding what words work for you, what words don't, and then apply that to your different customer base. Because again, every customer is going to be different. Their communication needs are going to be different. So you just develop your own style and just kind of apply it differently per person.
Overview, everyone. The big umbrella. What's the reason to do this? Is it about converting?
It's converting. Absolutely. That's going to be a huge part of it. It's also going to be learning. You know, it's the one thing that we haven't talked about is, we've talked about, great calls and hearing good things, but we also are going to hear calls where there were misunderstandings, where you didn't do so well. And so you're going to learn from those calls as well. So, a good example would be, a customer comes in and says, oh no, you didn't tell me that the bill was going to be $900. You told me that it was $500. And I would never take a recorded call and play it for a customer unless it was like a really special situation. But I would now go back after that customer leaves, after we've figured out, come to a decision between the two of us. I would now go back and listen to that call, and I would say, how are we going to learn from this? How are we going to make sure this doesn't happen again? And so we will, if there's a different way or better way of communicating, or if we have to change something, or that is, so for me, absolutely. Number one is conversion. And number two is going to be learning.
It's so interesting to say that there may have been a dispute on a $900 bill as an example. What's a big learning curve if the customer heard different than you, Keith? What exactly would you do?
Well, communication is the biggest key to everything we do, everything that the advisor does. And I found typically your comebacks are lack of communication, whether it be on the customer's end, the advisor's end, between the advisor and the technician, whatever the case might be. But I can always find a communication breakdown whenever we've had an issue like that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. How many times has a customer said that a new vehicle may look and smell nice, but the reality is that they come with seemingly endless monthly payments, higher license fees, and higher insurance premiums? The better solution, remanufactured components from Jasper, means a new lease on life for your customer's trusted old friend. Thank you, Jasper, for supporting the Town Hall Academy. So, do you ever sit down, gang, with, are you the only advisor, Lauren, in the shop?
No, I'm not. There's two others.
Do you ever sit down and do a team listen?
I can't say we've ever done a team listen. I know we've listened to each other's phone calls, but we've never done a team listen before.
Keith?
That's an interesting idea. I'm going to implement that, Arm. Thank you.
Definitely.
I'm just full of them today, aren't I? All these great ideas, they just bubble up. I don't know what to do with them, so I let them out.
Mhm.
Do you see any value in a team listen, Rena?
Oh, that's a great idea, especially if it's a good call. It really has to be somebody that's comfortable with listening to their calls. And as long as that person is comfortable with it, then I would say absolutely. I've done it before in classroom settings where I have played people's calls. So Lauren, didn't I play one of your calls in a classroom once?
Yes. You
I
played a
did.
number of calls in that class, though.
But as a shop, I think that's a really great idea. But you have to be careful because people can be it's very vulnerable time to listen to your calls. And so I think it just depends on the people, but I do have one shop that likes to train together. Most of my shops, I train, everybody gets their own session. But I have one shop that they really enjoy training together and they like giving each other feedback. But that is 1 out of 30 shops that I work with that does that.
Yeah, I really see that a team listen could be very tricky. And my advice would be, now that I'm thinking deeper about it, is that you would pick maybe one good and maybe one not bad, but one marginal call that you as the owner would say, let's learn from both of these. Let's do a high five and let's do a learning moment with each, and everybody has a chance to. It's a balanced program because we all don't never want to be called on the carpet.
No,
And I'll tell you,
for sure.
boss, if you're going to play that really bad call from the other day that I was really, really bad, and I know I was, don't do it. And that would be my best advice. The culture in the business would never be that we would ever want to put anyone in a bad position and embarrass them in any way. But so Keith, 4 years you've been doing this.
Yes.
Any great advice to give to someone who has yet to start?
Just do it. A lot of people, that's the big one. A lot of people think it's really expensive. It doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can find recorders out there for $100, $200. I mean, it doesn't have to be a huge investment. So just do it.
I would recommend getting a recorder that records incoming and outgoing, because the majority of our sales are outgoing calls.
Yes.
And so it is just as important to hear sales calls as it is to hear a price shopper call. So I would look for something that does incoming and outgoing. Or you can have 2 recorders. I have a lot of shops that have 2 recorders, because you have a lot of services that, already offer recording, call recording,
Yep, sure.
like that come with marketing, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Kukui and
Yep.
Repair Pal, and they have, their tracking numbers that are recorded.
Lauren, you have a style. Have you listened to your calls and says, I'm breaking out of my style, I'm becoming somebody new and different than I normally am, my core basic self? And do you let it happen?
Through training, listening to these phone calls, there is going to be the natural evolution of style. I don't feel that, of course, there are some times when you do break away from that, and it's hard to step back into your role. But again, just through listening to these, you're able to realize at what point you need to stop and think, okay, come back into it, get back into your R, and just keep pushing forward.
Get back into your R. Explain that to me.
Get back into your role. So when you're on the phone with a customer, you're in your role. You're the service advisor. You're helping them with their vehicle and trying to make them as happy as possible. And sometimes you get a phone call from a customer who may not be so nice, or maybe they've had a bad day and they're taking it out on you. And no one really likes that. But as a service advisor, you can't let that affect you, because at the end of the day, your goal is to get that customer in and help them. And so when you get a customer like that, you have to stop and take a step back, separate the emotion from it, and step back into your role as a service advisor and think to yourself, I need to help this customer.
Have you ever gone back and listened to a phone call from a really tough customer,
Mm-hmm.
and you said, I got to listen to this because I know exactly what happened. I picked up the phone, they said who they were, and I could feel something come over me. And when I went back and heard my voice and everything about me had that damn feel to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It does happen. But again, as you're listening to these calls, you're able to identify your triggers, for lack of a better word, and know when you need to say, I'm sorry, let me put you on hold for just a moment, get the customer on hold, take a couple of deep breaths, put the smile back on, and come back to the call.
To me, guys, it would seem like if you know that the calls were recorded, it says, listen, I don't want to go back and listen to this, so I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
It's almost
Exactly.
like it's like I know when I go back and listen what's going to be. So almost come back to ground zero, if you will, and not let it affect you. How tough that is! So tough, Keith, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The call recording has really told me that I don't belong on the front counter. I realize that I need to work on my business, not in it. And my advisor, Catherine, she came from the food service world. I mean, she was a restaurant manager. So she had no background, but she does so much better job communicating with the customer than I ever could. That's one thing you learn really quickly.
Do you credit Keith the phone recording and the coaching for her success?
Oh, I do, for sure. Yes.
So that's one of the most important ingredients. Not only do you need to get good service advisor training, but in order to then put the bow on it, you got to listen and coach the calls.
Yep. And you got to make them feel good about getting the coaching.
So, Rena, thank you, Keith. So, Rena, when you listen to a bunch of calls for a client, and 50% of them that come in, they were asking for the status on their car. Does that send a signal to you?
It just happened like last week. I had a customer where I go in and I listen to the calls, and the majority of them were I'm checking on the status of my car. And at that point, I know that week's lesson is going to be how we're going to set better expectations for the customer at the counter. So when the car's dropped off, that we tell the customer, we're going to call you by 10 or 12 or 2 or whatever time, so that we'll give you an update. So that's going to hold your service advisor accountable by forcing them to give a time. And then, yes, I know that we need to implement a new procedure or process. So recorded calls aren't just for, sales techniques or for lead to conversion. It uncovers what is going on in the shop. Like Keith was saying, I will hear if there are comebacks. And so now I'm going to say, hey, why are we having comebacks? And we're going to uncover that. I mean, recorded calls are literally, it is my biggest and best tool as a coach. And so if there are people out there that aren't recording yet, like Keith said, just do it. It's sometimes painful, but it can really uncover what is happening in your shop and help you find the processes and policies that you need to implement.
Hey everyone, performance and reliability. Now that's what Jasper's remanufactured diesel engines provide mile after mile. Jasper's running complete engines are dynamometer tested with horsepower and torque ratings recorded. There's a nationwide warranty included too. Talk about dependable service. Jasper engines and transmissions. A couple of things that I want to bring up. You said it may be painful in the beginning. And the message here is just do it. But it may be painful in the beginning. Give some advice to someone who is not doing this, how to start.
I think the advice is go into it with an open mind. If you're an owner, obviously you want to do this, but you need to have your advisors go into it with an open mind. You need to let them know that, hey, we're not going to fire you just because of this first call. This is something to get us better. That gets us to the next level. It's going to serve the customer better. And that's what the whole goal is, to serve the customer.
That's a good point. You definitely don't want people to walk away from listening to their calls feeling like that they are not capable. and that they can't do this job. This job is really hard. Converting, lead to conversion, an average shop is like 30%. So you answer 10 calls and you get 3 people to come in. Now that's not every shop. Some shops have a lower and some shops have higher, but average 30%. So you already, I'm not going to say that it's rejection, but you already get a significant number of people that don't make an appointment with you. And so you really don't want an advisor to feel, again, that they aren't doing a good job. I mean, if they're not, and they need to hear it sometimes. But ultimately, my goal when they walk away from a training session is feeling inspired and to feel like I can get better. And hey, it isn't all bad. So when we listen to calls, I'm going to point out 1 or 2 things that you need to work on, and everything else I'm going to point out all of the positives, because that's how you're going to grow. Is you're not going to grow if you feel like you're incompetent. You're going to grow if you feel confident and like you are successful. Would you agree, Lauren?
Wholeheartedly.
I totally agree too. I couldn't agree more, Rena.
I love what you just said. You may be closing 3 out of 10, and you made me think about digital vehicle inspections and the improved ARO that's coming with that by doing a much more complete job. So we would think that having a much more complete job at the counter is that tandem. The techs are doing this and the service writers need to be doing that, and that is service advisor training and learning what a quality call really, really means. Hang on one second, everyone. Can we see a good impromptu role play scenario? Oh, that's really cool. From my friend Barry Barrett. Barry also asked, that's interesting. I don't know if anybody wants to go through this. It would be
I'll do it.
a lot of fun. Oh, great. And maybe Lauren, since you're the service advisor?
Sure, why not?
How cool is that? All right, Barry. Barry was wondering the best tool for call recording. Can anyone actually just give us a name of a tool that you're using? Keith?
I use just an intelligent recorder, I think it's called. It's
That's who I just heard about as well. I don't know if I actually use that because I don't go in and retrieve my own calls. I have somebody that does it for me, but I have heard of that company as well.
Excellent. Okay. One other final thing before we go into this role play, Barry. Maybe I should bring Barry on to coach this.
Yeah, Barry should come on and do it with us.
Sure, why not?
So we're listening to calls, everyone. Have you ever walked away with a policy change, Keith?
Sure. Most definitely. There's definitely things that you cannot allow, or things that, hey, we need to all be doing this exact same thing. So both of them items have come up from call recordings for sure.
Interesting. Because we're always looking for process improvements everywhere and all the time. Yep. Barry, I actually don't mind. Let me bring in my friend Barry. What the heck here? Listen, you guys are the expert. I'm going to sit on the sidelines here.
I'll do it.
All right, Barry, go ahead. And Lauren will be your service advisor.
That's good, because I know the other two, and we don't want to mess this whole thing up. All right, Lauren. So you ring, right?
All right.
And I say, what's the name of your shop, Lauren?
Los Gatos Auto Service.
Los Gatos. Did I say it right?
Los Gatos Auto Service. Yeah.
In my southern drawl. So thank you for calling Los Gatos Auto Service. This is Barry. How may I help you?
Hi, my name is Lauren, and I think I need some new brakes.
Okay, I can help you with that. May I get your name and number just in case we get disconnected, please?
Yeah, my name is Lauren, and my number is 408-377-1751.
Thank you so much. Lauren, really quick, have you been a guest of ours before?
I haven't.
Okay, well, thank you for calling. Would you mind sharing with me who referred you, please?
I actually found you guys on Google.
Google. Did you happen to see our reviews?
I did. That's why I'm calling.
Best in town, right?
Absolutely.
Lauren, our customers, they're so good to us. I mean, they really do. We try to do our best, and they're so good to us. And we really want to help you get happily involved in our company. So, if you'll give us a shot, I'd really appreciate it. Let me share. Could you share with me really quick what makes you believe that you need brakes?
So they just haven't been feeling quite right. You know, they're making noise sometimes, but not all the time. And the brake pedal feels soft and squishy.
Would you be surprised it could be 10 to 15 different things causing those various issues?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, it's really why we need to have an ASC certified tech run a series of tests and procedures so that we can isolate those issues and then properly inform you on how to move forward. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
When would be a good day for you, Tuesday or Wednesday?
How about Wednesday?
Wednesday's great. Morning or afternoon?
Afternoon.
So we have a 1:15 and a 2:12 available. Which one would you rather have?
2:12 sounds ideal.
At 2:12, we'll bring you in and we'll do all that to you. Sometimes we get into it that late in the day and it goes to the next day. Is there a way, if that happens, that I could offer you alternate transportation, please?
Yeah, I think that would work.
Fantastic. We just want to make sure that you're safe and reliable, the most affordable way, and you're not wasting a lot of times in an automotive repair shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
As much as I know you like to hang out in them. All right, well, we'll see you at 2:12. Do me a favor. If something comes up and you have to change that appointment, please let us know because we really do keep a tight ship around here and we want to make sure that we serve as many people as we can. Would you do that?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. But I had a question for you, Barry. How long is it going to take for you to take a look and get back to me and let me know what's going on?
Well, we never take a look, Lauren. We always do a proper inspection, if that's okay. How long do you have?
Well, I have time. I was just curious.
Well, what we could do is take you home, and that way you can be in the comfort of your home while we do that. And then at the end of the day, we can actually pick you up if need be. Is that fair enough?
Absolutely. And what kind of price are we looking at as far as the inspection goes?
Well, right now it's not gonna cost you anything except for time with that specific thing. So if you'll show up, we'll appreciate it. Any other questions that I could answer for you?
I don't think so. Not right now.
You've been fantastic. Thank you so much. We'll see you at 2:12.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
All right.
Okay, the Olympic judges have to bring up their numbers now.
So I would be remiss to say what would make it a 10, Carm, because I'm always trying to get feedback.
Yeah, I know. And, because we're not perfect. Oh, wait a minute. 9.9. Very good.
So I'll say the one thing that I think that could have made it better is I never asked them what makes you think you need. And because I feel like it can put somebody on the defense. So instead I ask about the symptoms. So when somebody says to me, well, what makes you think you need brakes? My initial thought is what makes you think I don't? But that's just because, I think about it from like, you're a guy, I'm a girl, and now you're questioning me, right? You're questioning if I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And so instead I'll say, what sort of symptoms are you experiencing? And when I ask about the symptoms, it now actually helps me because instead of referring back to you needing brakes, I'm going to refer to correcting your symptom instead of fixing your brakes. So I think it does two things. It makes sure that I don't, offend anybody, but then it also uncovers the symptoms so that we can now fix your symptom.
I like it. So I enjoy that. So there's two things. One, on the East Coast, we're not so offended.
we are a sensitive group over here.
It's so funny. I think about this subject all the time about men and women thinking this or that. I'm like, man, I thought we were past that. Like, let's just agree that we're cool and we're pretty much the same except for just the longer hair and maybe deeper voices. But here's the thing, and I agree with you. So I tell people not to say why do you think, but what or how, because why always seeks to blame, but what and how doesn't. So I think that's fantastic. And I think that's good feedback, and I'm gonna write that down, and I'm gonna start to figure out does that flow? And I'd love to change. Change is the best thing ever. And Carm, we just did a podcast on that.
Yes, we did. It hasn't been released
Another
yet.
Plug. This guy, man.
I'm not even sure I could release it.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty fiery.
It was intense. Yeah, we were at ATE, and it was great. So Keith, what'd you think of Barry and Lauren?
I would hire either one of them tomorrow. I've actually offered with Barry. I've known him for years, so
he's shot me some offers, and I'm like, Keith, look, man, I love you. I don't know if I can
It's not that much.
I don't know if I can move to Iowa because my Kentucky brethren in basketball would not go well.
Lauren, as a customer, and you were exposed to what Barry was doing as the service advisor, how were you feeling?
As a customer, I mean, I felt fine. I remember, before I was in the industry, you didn't know what questions to ask. I mean, the only thing you really knew to ask was price. So having someone guide you towards the right direction it's always very helpful. And I try to do that with my customers as well, because they call and say, well, how much? It's like, okay, well, I can give you a price, but do you know what kind of warranty other shops are offering? Do you know what kind of benefits they're offering?
So, Lauren, I want you to hear the would you be surprised it could be 10 to 15 different things? So I have 2 questions that I asked overall, and I'm going to training mode, but 2 questions. Would you be surprised to know it could be 10 to 15? So if they haven't had it diagnosed, I go with that one. Because if it could be 10 to 15 different things, you're not going to ask for 10 to 15 different prices. She's not going to happen.
Right.
So I teach the Socratic method, Socrates. Like, you wouldn't think an old country boy from Kentucky would know about Socrates and all those good things, but I do. And so then if they have had it diagnosed, I ask a second question. I try to keep things very simple because I'm a simple guy. So would you be surprised to know that it could be 70% of what we see that comes in here is either misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed? And then and then I ask, does that make sense? Because does that make sense as a say yes question? It gets a yes no matter what. I was in algebra, and my algebra teacher said, hey, does that make sense? And I'm like, I didn't have a clue. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So
you don't want to say no.
You say yes question. And then as soon as you say yes, you have de facto agreed to an appointment, whether you know it or not. Because if it makes sense, the next step is, hey, when's good for you? And if you noticed, I gave you that choice close as soon as you said yes to that. So Socratic method, question, question, question. It all makes sense. Boom, you can ask for the appointment.
So you were Lauren, very comfortable with Barry, it seemed. I mean, he actually got you to make that commitment. Did you learn anything from that at all?
Let's see. I think, I was actually just in one of Barry's classes at ATE. So some of what he used, I picked up and I actually wrote down because I want to implement it here. So there's that. But I know the one thing that I did learn from it is asking the question, do you know that this could be 10 to 15 things causing that issue? So that's another really good question that, will really help the customers stop and think, maybe it might not just be my brakes. It might be something else.
Barry, even though you're a country boy, that's a Socratic question thing. I just encourage anyone to go to the web, go to Google and type in Socratic questions and Socrates. Yes. When I first learned it, I said, what the heck is that? Oh, Socrates. It's very good. And it really helps in all areas of leadership and business. And you learn to ask a lot more questions. And that's what I do for a living, by the way. Yeah. Ask questions.
One of my heroes, Ron Haugen, is where I got the 70%. One.
Another plug? My God. Can we get him off of the show?
Haugen's awesome. And so you got to give credit where credit's due. And so he told me he measured it for 2 years, and 70% of the time when you give a price over the phone, you're inadvertently lying to the customer. 80% of the time it's more expensive.
Yeah.
Well, look thank you, Barry. I'm going to leave you right where you are. You can hang out as we kind of bring this to a conclusion. I've got to give my panel here the last word and any advice they wanted to give to the industry. By the way, this was so much fun, an impromptu thing. And Lauren, you were a great sport to do this and to be our customer. And Barry, you barged in, man. I don't know why. I had a weak moment there. I let you into my format here. Oh God.
It was the Southern charm.
Yeah, probably.
How can you hear the Southern charm over a chat? Like, that's
like to call them Barryisms myself.
But we will go around the room. Keith, Lauren, and then Rena I'll give you guys the last word, as you all started with me in the beginning, and we put Barry in the middle. Keith, so I'm on the fence. I got to do this.
You need to do this. Everybody needs to do this. There is no other choice. I mean, your choice is you lose customers every day, you offer subpar service, or you do this to get better and give your customers what they need. Take care of them. If you don't, they're going down the road to somebody else.
Look, we got to look at it from a learning perspective more than anything, right?
Yes, exactly. We can all get better. No matter what we're doing, we can all get better. We have to work hard at it. And this is just one of them steps.
Walk back to 4 years ago when you just started and you started to listen to those initial calls. Did you have an outer body experience about how much revenue you were losing?
Yes. And it's happened time and time again over the years. So every time you get a different advisor, new advisor, and they're not used to the methods, it happens.
So anyone for their business plan this year, I would cross off something that will not work and add call recording to the top of the list.
Yes.
Got it. Lauren.
I'm on board. I mean, I think honestly, it's one of the most, if not the most itself valuable training tool that I have, especially because it's all with regards to the customer. You need that customer to make your business succeed. And with these recorded phone calls, you really learn how to be your better self and how to just keep improving, how to get that customer in, how to make that sale, how to make them happy. So I couldn't be more grateful that, I met Rena and that I've started listening to these phone calls because it's really helped me and it continues to help.
Thank you so much. Rena, I'll give you the last word and then I have a final.
Don't make assumptions any longer. If you have it recorded, you now have proof. And so one of the things that I hear shop owners do is they try, or managers, they have their service advisor on the phone and they're hearing one side of the conversation and they're trying to correct the advisor. And that's, number one, distracting for the advisor, but number two, you can't hear the other side of the story. So don't make assumptions any longer. Hear exactly what's happening. It helps actually uncover some marketing. Do you have good marketing, some insight into your marketing when you're hearing recorded calls? So absolutely listen to your recorded calls, be open-minded to it. And if you don't have recording, get it.
Get it. Done.
Just do it.
My final word.
Just do it.
So here's my final word. I've been thinking about role plays as part of maybe an occasional quarterly Town Hall Academy. And I just had my eyes open to how it would work. And so thank you, Barry, for coming in and making this happen. We were going to do a role play before you even came in, Bear, but I had a weak moment there. So I want to thank Rena Rennebaum, Keith Williamson, and Lauren Giver for us in our last entry, Barry Barrett, for being here to talk all about how to get value from recorded service calls. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.